Time now to start our broadcast with the front page, a news digest of what happened since yesterday's broadcast and while we were asleep. The Israeli-Hamas war is again leading the news. Israel orders more Gaza evacuations. This being reported by USA Today. The Israeli military expanded its evacuation zones to include the second largest city in Gaza, Khan Yunis, in the southern Gaza Strip. Since October 13, thousands of Palestinians have fled the northern Gaza territory after Israeli forces warned them to evacuate. Long after the conflict is over, according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the military needs to maintain unrestricted security control over the Gaza Strip. More than 1,200 Israelis were killed, most of them civilians, and up to 240 hostages were taken after Hamas militants crossed the border and attacked Israeli communities on October 7th. A humanitarian crisis in southern Gaza is getting worse as a result of Israel's expanding airstrikes and ground offensives in response to the attack, as thousands of Palestinians have fled from the north. The United Nations Human Rights Commissioner has called on the international community to act with one voice and press for an immediate ceasefire. Palestinians in Gaza are living in utter deepening horror, said the UN's Volker Turk at a news conference in Geneva. Quote, as an immediate step, I call for urgent cessation of hostilities and the release of all hostages. The Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, is calling on Israel to do more to protect civilian life, this being reported by USA Today. When Vice President Kamala Harris called on Israel to stop killing so many Palestinian civilians last weekend, she stopped short of saying that the country has committed war crimes in its scorched earth campaign to destroy Hamas. She said, quote, the United States is unequivocal. International humanitarian law must be respected, unquote. She said during a speech in Dubai last weekend, too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, she went on to say. The vice president isn't the first Biden administration official to criticize Israel's conduct in Gaza, but the question of whether Israel is violating the international laws of war and armed conflict is a delicate and hotly debated topic in Washington. Israel is abiding by globally recognized rules of armed conflict. Quote, from the way the goals of the war were crafted and all the way to our operational conduct, Iral Hulata, Israel's national security advisor, said to USA Today, quote, there are teams whose sole responsibility is to verify every strike and every action to see that it does not contradict international law, unquote. Israel insists that it's well aware of the laws of war and armed conflict and that it has made all reasonable efforts to comply, an assessment shared by many legal experts, including former State Department lawyer Orde Kriti. The American embassy in Baghdad has been hit by rockets, this according to Fox News. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad was attacked by several rockets this morning that caused minor material damage, but no casualties, according to U.S. and Iraqi officials. Explosions were heard near the embassy in the capital city of Iraq at approximately 4:15 a.m. on Friday. An embassy spokesman then confirmed that the U.S. Embassy was attacked by 2 salvos of rockets, adding that, quote, assessments are ongoing, but there are no reported casualties on the embassy compound, unquote. This morning's attack included 14 Katyusha rockets, some of which struck near one of the embassy's gates, while others fell in the river, according to an Iraqi security official. The attack was confirmed by a U.S. military official who said the multi-rocket attack was launched at U.S. and coalition forces in Baghdad's heavily fortified Green Zone, which houses Iraqi government buildings and embassies. In the United States, the UNLV shooting still there. Police in Las Vegas have identified the suspect in Wednesday's shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, that left 3 people dead and another injured. Sheriff Kevin McMahill identified the suspect yesterday during a press conference as Anthony James Polito. He's 67 years old. McMahill said that Polito was a resident of nearby Henderson, Nevada, and applied numerous times for jobs with several higher education institutions in Nevada and was denied each time. Polito was killed by police during a shootout on Wednesday. The sheriff said Polito had a list of people he was seeking on campus, including faculty from East Carolina, where he was previously a professor. Hunter Biden has been indicted by David Weiss, U.S. attorney in California. This from USA Today. Hunter Biden, the president's son, was indicted on charges he failed to pay his income taxes, Justice Department Special Counsel David Weiss announced yesterday. The announcement came months after a plea deal over tax and gun charges collapsed. Under the agreement, which a federal judge rejected, Hunter Biden was set to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of failing to pay taxes in 2017 and 2018. Biden is charged in a California federal court with 3 felony tax offenses and 6 misdemeanors. He engaged in a scheme in which he failed to pay at least $1.4 million in self-assessed taxes from 2016 through 2019, and also evaded tax assessment for 2018 when he filed false returns, this according to the indictment. From 2016 to 2020, Biden spent money on, quote, drugs, escorts, and girlfriends, luxury hotels and rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature. In short, everything but his taxes, unquote. This again, according to the indictment. Lawyers for Hunter Biden did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The indictments have been called a nuclear bomb for the Biden family. This from Fox News. After that California grand jury handed down an indictment of first son Hunter Biden, political analysts predicted the bombshell would put President Biden in a self-constructed trap after he again claimed allegations he was influence peddling cahoots with his brother and son were lies. A grand jury impaneled in the Central District of California, which comprises Los Angeles, handed down an indictment against Hunter Biden. Quote, I think a lot of people felt that David Weiss was going to let these charges skate and Hunter Biden would never be held accountable for making millions of dollars overseas. And a lot of people will say that was inappropriate, unquote. This according to former Representative Sean Duffy, the Republican from Wisconsin. Washington Times opinion editor Charles Hurt added to Fox News, the indictment must be like, quote, a nuclear bomb going off for the Biden family, unquote, saying it must terrify President Biden as he approaches his re-election contest to have his son indicted for something he may or may not be connected to. Donald Trump is appealing a federal judge's ruling on presidential immunity. This from USA Today. Donald Trump is appealing a federal judge's ruling. He is not protected by presidential immunity from criminal charges tied to his alleged interference in the 2020 election. The former president filed the appeal yesterday, along with requests for a pause in his criminal proceedings while the appeals court considers his arguments. Prosecutors oppose the pause request, said Trump. His trial in the case is currently scheduled to begin in March. Trump is fighting charges brought by special counsel Jack Smith that could land him in prison for decades, including that he conspired to obstruct the process for certifying the election. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan rejected a series of arguments from Trump to have the case dismissed, such as that he cannot be prosecuted because his alleged actions were, quote, at the heart of his official responsibilities as president, unquote. The judge went on to say, defendant's 4-year service as commander-in-chief did not bestow on him the divine right of kings to evade the criminal accountability that governs his fellow citizens, said Judge Chutkan in her December 1st ruling. Trump argued that the alleged statements about the administration of the federal election unquestionably fell within the scope of his official duties because presidents are duty-bound to defend themselves publicly and promote policy initiatives. The media is in the news. News organizations have decided to sponsor more Republican primary debates. This from USA Today. Multiple news organizations said yesterday they will sponsor a series of Republican debates next month in Iowa and New Hampshire ahead of the state's crucial primary contests. CNN said it will host debates next month in both Iowa and New Hampshire, the first events of their kind not sponsored by the Republican National Committee. The Iowa debate is being organized for Wednesday, January 10th, 5 days before the caucuses that open the delegate selection process, the outlet said in an announcement. In addition, ABC News and WMUR-TV of Manchester, New Hampshire announced they would sponsor a debate on January 18th. CNN's New Hampshire debate is planned for Sunday, January 25th, make that 21st, 2 days before the primary in the Granite State. The events will provide Republican voters an opportunity to hear the governing philosophies of the leading candidates seeking to challenge the likely Democrat presidential nominee, President Joe Biden, in November, according to a CNN statement. According to the Academy, UPenn president's testimony has cost the University of Pennsylvania, $100 million in a donation. This from Fox Business. A major donor to the University of Pennsylvania is withdrawing a donation worth roughly $100 million as a protest against the college's handling of anti-Semitism on campus and the controversial testimony by UPenn's president on the subject. Ross Stevens, The founder and CEO of Stone Ridge Asset Management donated to Penn in 2017, a gift that consisted of partnership units in the firm, which are now valued at around $100 million to help the university establish a financial innovation center. Attorneys for Stevens sent the university a letter indicating the school violated Stone Ridge's limited partnership agreement through its failure to adhere to anti-discrimination and anti-harassment rules. This news was first reported by Axios. The letter said that Stevens and Stone Ridge are appalled at the university's stance on anti-Semitism on campus. It added that Penn's permissive approach to hate speech, calling for violence against Jews, and laissez-faire attitude toward harassment and discrimination against Jewish students would violate any policy of rules that prohibit harassment and discrimination based on religion, including those of Stone Ridge. Good news on the economy this morning. The U.S. job growth has continued to be robust. This from the New York Times. The economy continued to generate robust growth in November, suggesting there is still juice left in the labor market that has been slowing almost imperceptibly since last year's pandemic rebound. Employers added 199,000 jobs last month, according to the Labor Department, while the unemployment rate dropped to 3.7%. The increase in employment includes approximately 41,000 auto workers and actors who returned to their jobs after strikes and others in related businesses that had been stalled by those walkouts. The decline in the unemployment rate is particularly notable because it had been drifting upward. That was a source of concern for many economists because historically, even small increases in the jobless rate have been associated with upcoming recessions. And that is today's front page.